An Israeli tech firm has discovered and is alleging that someone has created hundreds of thousands of pro-Trump bots on Twitter. And the accounts not only provide praise for Donald Trump, but they're also hounding his critics and also those running in the Republican primary for 2024. Now, the sprawling bot network was uncovered by researchers at Ciabra, an Israeli tech firm that shared its findings with the Associated Press. While the identity of those behind the network of fake accounts is unknown, this tech company's analysts determined that it was likely created within the United States. So let me just pause for a second. These stories come out ever so often, and I don't really know what to make of them because it's not like they go into the methodology of trying to determine like how they figured out that there's hundreds of thousands of these bots. But I lean toward believing it because I've been on Twitter, right? We know what it's like to be on Twitter, and sometimes randomly there'll be like a pro-Trump account that I haven't tweeted, I haven't had any activity on Twitter, but they'll send me a really mean tweet. I'll click on the account, it's like 0 followers, it was just created. You know what I'm saying?
Of course I know what you're saying.
And they're responding to a bunch of other tweets with the same message again and again and again.
They could have done this study just on my mentions. Okay, so guys, look, this is the reason why this rings true, is because it has felt for a long time that 2 + 2 = 4. The entire world was saying that it equaled 5, and now this study comes out and says, no, it equals 4, right? The bots that you're seeing are bots, and so look, I'll just add real quick before we get to the details that the gaslighting is what's maddening on Twitter, right? There'll be things that are clearly bots and not just from Trump. They're from a lot of different sources, including the Democratic establishment, and some of whom have already admitted in the past to doing bots on Twitter.
Oh, that's weird. I thought Pete Buttigieg was really, really popular and that there were like millions of people who wanted to defend his response to East Palestine. That's strange.
Yeah, exactly. Look, guys, you can tell with just the sheer quantity of messages you get, especially from new accounts with a bunch of numbers in their names. And then whenever you point it out, all the bots get indignant.
They do.
And they're like, or send out the message. How dare you, we are not bots. We are real people that love Pete Buttigieg. We are real people who love Donald Trump.
No, but what's interesting is that the bot networks are really stepping up their game with what's referred to as cyborg bots, where they're automated, they're bots, but every once in a while a real person will come in after the bot is accused of being a bot and go back and forth with the accuser, which is really interesting. And also the usernames or the handles that have 1 billion numbers, they're switching that up because people are now privy to the fact that if the username has a bunch of numbers, it's very likely to be a bot.
100%. See, I didn't know that phenomenon about the guys coming in with real people after being accused of a bot, but that's exactly what it felt like because they spit out talking points. And sometimes with me, there'll be talking points that are no longer relevant and it'll be on a random topic that I didn't even tweet about. And then when you challenge them on it, then it sounds like a real person instead of a computer program comes on. And it turns out that's exactly what's happening.
Now let's get back to the pro-Trump bots because many of the accounts were created on the same day. So that's hint number 1 that we're talking about a bot network here. The new pro-Trump network is actually 3 different networks of Twitter accounts, all created in huge batches in April, October, and November of 2022. In all, researchers believe hundreds of thousands of accounts could be involved. Now the bots, again, are a little more sophisticated. They're using photos of people or what appears to be real people, and they're switching up the usernames to look more realistic. One account will say, Biden is trying to take our guns. Trump was the best. And another will say, January 6th was a lie. It was on tape, like we all, anyway, all right. And Trump was innocent, said Jules Gross, the Ciabra engineer who first discovered the network. Those voices are not people. For the sake of democracy, I want people to know this is happening. And so like, why does this happen, right? It's to give real Twitter users, the non-bots, this illusion that someone is far more popular or has far more support than he or she really does.
There's a second reason that people use bots, that is to attack anyone who would criticize the person that they're working for. So that's why we mentioned Buttigieg, for example, because the minute progressives, not the right wing, but progressives started criticizing Buttigieg for correct things like, hey, he didn't push for safety regulations, all of a sudden, boop, 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 all these accounts pop up that go, no, Buttigieg is great. You guys are being right-wingers, right? This is a standard talking point, and they go in that direction, and that's why you see the phenomenon that you do.
So there is a third reason as well, and it's to game Twitter's algorithm, right? So let's say the bots are promoting something that helps to bolster what the politician is proposing or doing, right? If there's a bunch of accounts tweeting about the same thing, well then it makes that content more visible. The algorithm on Twitter makes that content more visible to the Twitter users, okay? So there's that. So I wanna give you a few other examples of what the bots are tweeting. They go after McConnell, of course. McConnell, traitor, wrote one of the accounts in response to an article in a conservative publication about GOP Senate leader Mitch McConnell, one of several Republican critics of Trump targeted by the network. And I thought the most interesting tweets had to do with Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. For the most part, they just insult Nikki Haley, but when it comes to Ron DeSantis, it's like, Ron DeSantis not ready to be president, but would be a great VP. That kind of thing, to kind of get that idea in people's heads that, don't support Ron DeSantis as president. I mean, Trump could potentially pick him for vice president. That'd be way better,
And so part of the reason to do this on Twitter is to influence real voters. But the bigger reason to do it is to influence the influencers. So if right-wing media, for example, a magazine that writes about Mitch McConnell, gets all this backlash of all their what they think are their readers saying we don't like McConnell, well, maybe next time they're more likely to write a negative piece about McConnell and a positive piece about Trump. And we just saw with Fox News how scared to death they were of their own audience. And so if you can get them to believe that it's their audience that's making these demands, they're far more likely to support your guy or to plant the thought of DeSantis being a junior politician who at best could be vice president. And so there's very logical reasons to do these bot attacks. And another problem is, number one, mainstream media, whenever you say bots, goes, oh yeah, that sounds a little conspiratorial. Okay, so bots work exceptionally well with mainstream media.
Well, yes, okay, but it depends, right? They're selective in when they get outraged or indignant about that accusation. Because I remember NBC had no problem airing that Tulsi Gabbard had a network of bots supporting her on Twitter.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah, so that's a great point.
Yeah.
And as with always with corporate media, whether it's right wing or mainstream media, it depends on what their agenda is.
Exactly.
So if it supports their agenda to point out the bots, they go, hey, look, bots. If it doesn't support their agenda, they're like, bots, lunatic conspiracy theorist. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, one more thing about that. Musk, when he said he was against the bots, I was like, look, I don't believe him. But if what he's saying is true, that would be an enormous upside to Musk buying Twitter. I would have problems with it for all the other reasons, but I would love to see him clean up the bots. Of course I was right, of course he didn't mean it. There are more bots, not less bots. And Elon Musk is just like mainstream media. Whatever he wants, he's like, well, bots for that, that's great. Oh, things I don't like, left-wing, oh, the bots, goddamn bots, right? So no, he hasn't cleaned up anything. And as usual with right-wingers in power, complete liar. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.